variant 13 AS paper 1. This is the paper I'm going to explain today. This is AS economics paper 1, and in this video I'll explain you first 15 questions, and in the next video I'll explain next 15 questions of the same paper. So starting with question number 1, which action would not raise the quality of a particular factor of production? So examiner generally bolds this word not, but in maximum times like students ignore this, so keep in mind this is the important word you have to consider. So option A is the correct answer. The scheme is the same. You can stop the video, read the question carefully and try to figure out what should be the answer, then listen to the logic that I am going to explain you. So option A is correct answer. Capital, operating a machine continuously at full capacity. So if you operate a machine at full capacity continuously, then quality of the factor of production, that is capital, will not raise or increase, rather it will decrease, because if you continuously use the machinery, technology and tools, they keep depreciating and their value continuously decreases instead of increasing. During a period of deflation, an economy's aggregate monetary demand falls. Which function of money explains this? Option D is the correct answer, a store of value. However, this question will not be tested in AS economics now because that is not in the syllabus. However, you should keep in mind this may be tested in A2. Question number 3 is, what will usually result if production is divided into separate processes that are assigned to different people, right? So when production process is divided, we call it specialization or division of labor, when one person performs one task. So lower output per worker, no, this can't happen. So option A and B can be the correct answer, so we will cross these values, option C and D, because when production is divided into separate processes, each worker will specialize in one process and his performance will increase, so output per worker will increase instead of decreasing. So examiner is saying lower output per worker, so lower output per worker will not happen, so no. More repetitive tasks, definitely when task is divided into different segments or different parts, then definitely one person will repeatedly keep doing the same thing. So option B is correct answer for this, because we will cross this option. Lower cost, yes, definitely when workers are specialized and work is divided into separate parts, then cost of production will decrease. So option B is the correct answer. Moving to question number 4, the diagram shows production possibility curve. Which combination is correct? So D is the correct answer. Again, you can stop the video, read the question carefully. Opportunity cost of producing more Y will increase, and opportunity cost of producing more X will also increase, because whenever the graph is concave to the origin, it shows increasing opportunity cost. There are 3 shapes of PPC concave like this. This shows increasing opportunity cost. Then we have graph like this. This is called convex to the origin, and convex to the origin graph shows decreasing opportunity cost. Then we have straight line that shows constant opportunity cost. So option D is correct answer as per this question. Question number 5 says, a government wishes to ensure adequate flood defenses are provided in its coastal areas. Which action is most likely to be undertaken only by the government? So option C is correct answer, financing the defenses, right? So since this is a public good, defense is a public good, so government has to finance it. You might be confused with other options, so I can explain you those as well. Building the defense, government can take help of private sector, private constructor may be appointed to build that. Design may be made by the private companies as well. Maintaining defense, again it may be handed over to the private sector, but finances will be provided by the government because this is funded by government. Question number 6 is consumer surplus exists in a market for rice. What does this mean? So C is correct answer. Some consumers would be willing to pay more than the market price for rice. So consumer surplus is the difference between what consumers are willing to pay and what is the market price. So if we find the difference, that is consumer surplus. Sometimes consumers are willing to pay, for example, $10, and if the consumer gets the product at $8 for rice, then definitely he saves $2. So $2 he saves is consumer surplus. So option C is correct answer. Moving to question number 7, the diagram shows the demand curve and supply curve of a product. Which area represents producer surplus? So as per this graph, equilibrium price is W, equilibrium quantity is Z. So total payment by the consumer here is OWYZ, and this is the complete area that consumers will pay. Producer surplus is the area above supply and below the equilibrium price. So this is the producer surplus. So to find out this area, what we have to do is we have to find out the total payment, that is OWYZ. OWYZ is the total payment, and the area above the supply curve and below equilibrium price is known as producer surplus. So to find out this area, what we have to do is from this whole rectangle or box, we have to deduct this area. So this area is OYZ. If we deduct this area, then we will find out this area, that is consumer surplus, triangular area. If you don't understand this question, then you may write in the comment box. I'll get back as soon as possible. Question number 8 says, the diagram shows a relationship between total expenditure and price of 3 products 1, 2, 3. Which area represents the products which with price elastic and price unitary elastic demand? Unitary elastic demand is when change in price has no impact on total expenditure and total revenue. So option 1 is a unitary elastic demand, because in this case total expenditure is fixed this much. For example, this is total expenditure, whatever price is in the market, total expenditure is not changing. So option 1, like curve 1, is a unitary elastic. So in option C we found that it is unitary elastic. So option C is correct answer. However, we have to find out elastic demand as well. So 3 is the elastic demand, because in case of elastic demand, if we decrease price, total expenditure and total revenue will increase. So this is happening in this graph. For example, let me make it clear to you why fall in price is increasing total expenditure here. For example, as per this line 3, if price is initially P, total expenditure will be, let's suppose, E. If we decrease price from P to P1, total expenditure will increase from E to E1, and this continues. So when demand is elastic, a little fall in price leads to greater rise in demand, so total expenditure and total revenue increases. Question number 9 is, what causes an inelastic market supply curve for an agricultural product? So for question number 9, answer D is correct answer. The very long time required to produce additional output. When it takes longer time to produce a product, then supply will be inelastic. It is the main factor that affects price elasticity of supply. So D is correct answer. Question 10 says, the diagram shows the effect of a change in the market for good X on the market for good Y. So this is market for good X, demand is increasing, and this is market for good Y, supply is increasing. What can be concluded about the goods? Okay, so for question number 10, answer is B. X and Y are in joint supply. Like these goods are jointly supplied. Jointly supplied mean if X is supplied, then Y will be supplied. Otherwise, Y will not be supplied. Like examples can be like honey and beeswax. They are in joint supply. If we supply more honey, then beeswax will also be supplied more. Similarly, mutton and wool, if we supply more mutton, that is, let's suppose we supply more sheep, then definitely demand for sheep increases, like demand for mutton increases, then definitely more sheep will be supplied, and more sheep, if more sheep are supplied, then definitely more wool will also be supplied. So consider this is wool and this is demand for mutton. If demand for mutton increases, suppose this is X is mutton and Y is wool. So if demand for mutton increases, then definitely more mutton will be available in the market, and then as a result more wool will also be automatically supplied. So B answer is correct answer. Moving to the next question, question number 11, and the final of a major sports event is held in a stadium which has fixed capacity of 4,000 people. So one thing we found here is that supply will be fixed because of fixed capacity. So we can see that supply is fixed in option A, that is 40,000 vertical straight line supply curve, and in option B supply is again fixed at 40,000. In other cases supply is not fixed, so we will cross them. And moving to the other part of the question, the price for a seat is set at PF. So this is price PF and this is also price PF. But when the tickets go on sale, all tickets are sold very quickly, with many disappointed people unable to buy the ticket. It means there will be shortage, demand will be more and supply will be less. If we consider option A, in option A at price PF, demand the point where it intersects demand curve, we will find out demand is here, D1 for example, this is less than 40,000 and supply is 40,000. It means in this case supply is more and demand is less, but we have to find out the point where demand will be more and supply will be less, because some people are disappointed and they don't get the ticket. So in this case you can see that at price PF supply is 40,000 but demand is more than supply, let's say it's 50,000. So in this case when more people are demanding but supply is less, so some people will be disappointed and will not be able to get the ticket. Moving to question number 12, which product has the lowest price elasticity of demand? In this case option D is the correct answer, right? So price elasticity of demand is calculated as percentage change in quantity demand over percentage change in price. So in option B, percentage change in quantity demand is 0%, percentage change in price is 10%, so 0% over 10% is equal to 0. So this is perfectly inelastic, so this is the lowest possible price elasticity of demand. In all other cases the situation is like where demand is more elastic than 0. In option C it will be like 5% over 10% is equal to 0.5. 0.5 is definitely greater than 0, and in option B it's 5% over 5% is equal to 1, so again this is greater than 0. In case of option A, 10% quantity demand over 0% change in price will be infinite. Infinity is definitely again greater than 0, so option D is the correct answer. It's a mathematical rule, if numerator is 0, answer will be 0. If denominator is 0, then answer will be infinite. Question number 13 says the market for a product is initially in equilibrium. Which combination of changes will cause the price of the product to rise and quantity sold to fall? So option B is correct answer, and the conditions here are that price will rise and quantity will fall. So we have to prove that why it is happening in option C. So we have quantity on X, this is quantity, and we have price on Y. So this is a normal demand curve and this is a normal supply curve. We have to find out an initial equilibrium, that is at price P and quantity Q. So this is origin point. Okay, so now if there is a decrease in demand that is smaller than decrease in supply, then definitely this condition will be satisfied. So we have to decrease supply more, right? For example, supply falls more, so it shifts a lot to the left, and there is a decrease in demand, but decrease in demand is a little lesser than the decrease in supply. So demand will shift to the left, and new equilibrium will take place where two blue lines intersect each other, new lines. So equilibrium will be now at E1, where you can see that price has increased from P to P1 and quantity has decreased from Q to Q1, and we were to find out the point where price increases and quantity falls. So option B is correct answer. Moving to question number 14, and question number 14 says the diagram shows two demand curves and two supply curves, right? Which combination of shifts in the demand and supply curves would result in a change in equilibrium position from H to K? Initially equilibrium is at H, it means this will be the supply curve and this will be the demand curve, and now equilibrium moves to K, it means demand has shifted to the right from D to D1 and supply has shifted to the right from S to S1. So new supply and demand curves S1 and D1 intersect each other at this point. So demand has increased as well as supply has also increased. When demand and supply shift to the right, they are basically increase. This represents increase in demand and supply. So for question number 14, option A is correct answer, increase in demand and increase in supply. Another important thing that when supply increases, we generally say that supply shifts to the right, or we also say supply will shift downward, right? And for demand, we say that increase in demand shifts demand curve to the right or shifts demand curve upward. So these two terms are generally used, so you must know them. The last question for this video, and then in the next video you can watch next 15 questions. Question number 15 says in 2009 the Australian government made a payment of $900 to those who earned less than $100,000 per year. How would this payment be described? So this payment is progressive. Progressive payments and progressive charges are basically the kind of payments and charges that reduce the gap between the rich and poor, income gap between rich and poor. It reduces the income of the rich class and it increases a little bit the income of the poor class. For example, if we assume initially the income of rich is much higher and the income of the poor is much lower, so this much gap is already existing between them. When government pays $900 to all those who are poor, who earn low income, then the income of these poor people will go a little higher. So let's suppose income level of the poor class reaches at this point and the income of the rich class is at the same level, for example. So what will happen? Now the gap between the rich and poor has decreased. So progressive tax and progressive payments are the kind of payments that are also known as automatic stabilizer, and they reduce the risk, reduce the gap between rich and income gap between rich and poor. In case of progressive tax, government imposes high tax rate on the rich class due to which and low taxes on the poor class. So what happens then is the income of poor class goes a little higher because they are paying less taxes, so their disposable income will increase, and disposable income of the rich will decrease a little bit because they are paying more taxes, more percentage of income in taxes. So now the gap between rich and poor will reduce to this much, right? So progressive taxes are the taxes that decrease income of the rich class, disposable income of the rich class, and increase disposable income of the poor class. So it decreases gap between income gap between rich and poor. And progressive payments by the government are where government pays more kind of payments, transfer payments to the poor class, so their income increases, and when their income increases, the gap between rich and poor class decreases. So again, it is also progressive. Number 16 to 30, I'll explain these 15 questions in this video lecture. I explained first 15 questions in the previous video. If you're interested to watch that, then look into the playlist and you can find a video next to this video, I think. Okay, so question number 16 is the market for good Z is in equilibrium with 1000 units sold at a price of $10. The government pays subsidy of $2 per unit to producers of good Z. Under which condition will the total spending by the government on subsidy be smallest? Option A is correct answer for this question. Price elasticity of demand is less than 1, that is inelastic, and price elasticity of supply is less than 1, that is also inelastic. So when demand and supply are inelastic, definitely they bring a smaller impact. So subsidy provided by the government will bring a smallest impact in this case. Question number 17, if an industry is currently state owned and state run, what does not represent a reason for it being privatized? So B is the correct answer. The benefits of merit goods will be taken into consideration in decision making. So private industries basically don't consider private benefits of merit goods, right? So this is not basically the reason here. Okay, so question number 18 says, what does the incidence of an indirect tax on product refers to? Correct answer is option A, the proportion of tax paid by the consumers relative to the producers. Incidence of tax basically shows the tax burden or impact of tax on consumers and producers. So option A represents incidence of tax. Okay, so moving to question number 19. A government wishes to influence the price of a good. It introduces maximum price P max and minimum price P min. And the diagram shows these prices relative to current market price P. This is the current market price, that is P. Maximum price and minimum price both are set by the government below equilibrium. We know that minimum price below equilibrium is ineffective, so this cannot be the answer. And maximum price below equilibrium is effective. So option B is the correct answer. Only the maximum price will be effective because it is set below equilibrium. Maximum price set below equilibrium is effective and minimum price set above equilibrium is effective. If minimum price is set at this point, then it will be effective. If it is set below equilibrium, then it is ineffective. Okay, so moving to question number 20. A government removes the tariff on the product as shown below. When tariff is removed, definitely world supply with tariff was this, and after tariff it is this. So supply has shifted downward. So initially domestic supply was at this point. When supply was this one, this is the initial supply, world supply. So price was P1 and domestic suppliers were supplying this much quantity at price P1. And when tariff is removed, world supply curve will move downward and now price is P2, and against P2 price domestic suppliers are, this is domestic supply, so domestic suppliers are willing to supply V quantity. What will be the change in domestic production? It will reduce a reduction of WV. This is the correct answer, option A. So initially domestic producers were supplying this much, now they will be supplying V. So it will reduce from W to V. Okay, so moving to the next question, question number 21. An economy is initially in equilibrium. Which combination of events will definitely cause an increase in the general price level of the economy and decrease in real output? So for question number 21, correct answer is D. Aggregate demand should remain unchanged and aggregate supply should decrease. Then definitely price level in the economy will rise and output will fall. So we can make a graph to verify this as well. So this is real GDP or real output on X, origin point, on Y we have price level. So this is aggregate demand and this is aggregate supply. So initially aggregate demand and supply meet each other at point E where price level is P and real output is Y. Now if aggregate demand is unchanged, it remains the same, and there is decrease in aggregate supply, then aggregate supply will move to the left and it will shift somewhere at AS1. New equilibrium will take place at E1 where price will rise to P1 and real output will decrease to Y1. So price has increased, real output has decreased. So this was the requirement of question, that price will rise and output will fall, decrease. Moving to question number 22, the diagram, the government of a country changes from balanced budget to budget deficit. Balanced budget is when government income and expenditure both are equal, and budget deficit is when government spends more than its income. So when we run government budget deficit, then it increases aggregate demand in the economy. From which point along the country's long run aggregate supply curve will this change cause the largest increase in employment without creating inflationary pressure? So option A is correct answer for this, because if initially at point A, let's suppose aggregate demand is this much, so real output will be Y and price level is P here. And now if there is increase in aggregate demand because of budget deficit, aggregate demand is basically C plus I plus G plus X minus M, and if G increases, aggregate G stand for government expenditure, and if government expenditure increases, overall aggregate demand will increase and aggregate demand shifts to the right. So new equilibrium will be at point B, for example, and real output will increase from Y to Y1, but still when we look into the price, then at point B price is again the same. So this is the requirement of the question, that it will not be an inflationary, it will not increase the price, however it will increase the output. Moving to question number 23, the price and volume indices of a country's imports and exports are shown in the table for year 2. And what is the country's terms of trade? Terms of trade, we have a formula to find out terms of trade. Terms of trade is equal to price index of exports over price index of imports multiplied by 100. So we have to find out terms of trade in year 2. So these are the figures relevant to year 2. So price index of exports is 121. So we can put 121 here and 110 here and then multiply by 100. So it will give us 110. So 110.0. Option C will be the correct answer for question number 23. Now question number 24, what is a certain outcome on an aggregate demand and aggregate supply diagram of an increase in factor productivity? If factor of production becomes more productive and efficient, then it will definitely increase aggregate supply, and when aggregate supply shifts increases, it shifts to the right or it shifts downward, right? So when aggregate supply increases, this is, let's suppose, initial aggregate supply. If aggregate supply increases, it will move to the right, or we call it downward shift in aggregate supply. So option B is correct answer. 25, trade and services is a component of current account of balance of payment. What is an example of trade and services? So C is the correct answer. Income from foreign tourism. Tourism is kind of service, so it will be recorded as a service or invisible trade. Which statement about changing price level is correct? Okay, so option A is correct answer. Anyone on fixed income has rising income during real income during deflation. Deflation is when price level falls. When price level falls, real income increases. So this is the correct statement. Question number 27, what would be likely to decrease inflation in an economy? And decrease inflation in an economy. Inflation is when general price level increases. So here in this case, we want to decrease general price level. So C is the correct answer. Increase in labor productivity. Increase in labor productivity increases aggregate supply and reduces price level. So when price level decreases, inflation will be reduced. You can make a graph as well. So this is aggregate demand, this is aggregate supply, and this is the price level, and this is real output Y. If labor productivity increases, then aggregate supply will increase because labor is now more efficient and productive. So it will produce more, aggregate supply will shift to the right. So new equilibrium will be at E1 instead of E, and real GDP will increase from Y to Y1 and price level will decrease from P to P1. So when price level falls, inflation is decreased. Question number 28, which change in economic circumstances is most likely to lead to reduction in rate of domestic inflation in an economy. And the answer is worldwide recession. When worldwide recession occurs, then aggregate demand falls, and when aggregate demand falls again, it is most likely to decrease inflation as well. So you can again make the graph. This is aggregate demand, this is aggregate supply. Equilibrium is initially at E, where price is P, real GDP is Y. Decrease in aggregate demand will shift aggregate demand to the left. New equilibrium will move downward and price will decrease to P1. Real GDP will decrease to Y1. So worldwide recession decreases aggregate demand and decreases price level. Question number 29 is, a country is currently experiencing deflation. Deflation is when price level decreases over time. It has large national debt that is greater than national annual real income. And which combination of policies is most likely to increase price level, right? So we have to focus on increase price level and without adding to the national debt. National debt should not increase basically. So fiscal policy will cater national debt, right? So we should reduce budget deficit. So option A and B can be correct answer, and we can cross these two options now. Because when budget deficit decreases, it means we need not to get loans, so national debt will decrease instead of increasing. What monetary policy should, because we want to increase the price level, so it should be expansionary monetary policy. So option B is inflationary or expansionary monetary policy, in which we increase money supply, and when money supply increases, aggregate demand will increase and price level will also rise. So again you can make the graph like this. This is aggregate demand and supply, this is AD, this is AS. Now if AD increases, expansionary monetary policy increases aggregate demand, so equilibrium will move upward, price will rise to P1, real GDP will rise to Y1. So price will increase. When price increases, it is inflationary impact. Moving to the last question. Which government action will conflict with named economic target? So these are the economic targets. We have to find out the action that will conflict with this, mean that will not help to achieve this target. So option A is correct answer, lower price level. If you want to lower the price level, that cannot be achieved by lowering the exchange rate. So this is the conflict, because if you lower the exchange rate, then you cannot achieve low price targets or price inflation. Because when exchange rate is low, it increases X minus M, that is net exports, and when net export increases, aggregate demand will rise, and same impact will be created as we have shown above. So price level will increase. So the question is targeting to lower inflation, but in this case inflation will increase. So this is against the target set here. So this is it. I believe you got some concepts cleared, and if you have any issue with this question paper or any other question paper, or you want me to explain for you, then you may write in the comment box, or you may contact me on my WhatsApp number 0333442963. rather you can write it like +9233342963. So this is it for today's class. See you soon inshallah. Allah Hafiz.